feel as if your thoughts dictate how your day goes or how you interact with others? Does it sometimes feel exhausting trying to shut your thoughts off? In today's video, I'm going to teach you a skill called diffusion, and this skill will help you get some distance from unhelpful thoughts, from unhelpful beliefs, emotions, images, and other inner experiences. Be mindful that throughout this video, I'll use the word thought or thoughts to capture all of these inner experiences that I kind of just mentioned. Diffusion is a skill that is perfect for anyone who struggles with recurrent negative thoughts or thoughts that significantly impact mood and behavior. It's also quite helpful for those who struggle with depressive and anxiety symptoms, and quite frankly, it's pretty useful for anyone because, let's be honest, we all kind of get caught up and tangled with our thoughts and emotions from time to time. So let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Gabriela Salvini Rodriguez, a licensed psychologist here at the Psychology Group. And without further ado, let's begin. First, let me explain a little bit about diffusion before getting into the technique itself. Diffusion is a skill that is primarily used to detach, separate, or get some distance from our thoughts and emotions, albeit all the inner experiences. And diffusion is part of acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. And ACT actually poses an interesting idea for thoughts. Instead of trying to change, fight, or repress our inner experiences like thoughts, emotions, memories, sensations, and all of this, we can focus on changing how we relate with them. Our minds tell us different stories because that's just what minds do. In the ACT framework, the content of the thought is not the problem. It's how we relate to it that can create the problem itself. So for example, if you have the thought, I am useless, and are completely fused with it by giving it your full attention, believing it, getting caught up in it, then you might feel sad or bad about yourself and avoid doing things that are important and or meaningful to you. When we're fused with our thoughts, we might believe them as 100% true, and thus thoughts could dictate our behavior. Believing thoughts such as I am useless is probably not helpful and could affect every aspect of your life. Understanding this concept is important when learning about diffusion. According to Russ Harris, writer of ACT Made Simple, cognitive diffusion is looking at thoughts rather than from thoughts, noticing thoughts rather than becoming caught up in them, letting thoughts come and go rather than holding on to them. And the aim of diffusion is to decrease our attachment to our inner experiences, reduce the believability of thoughts, decrease the influence of thoughts on our behaviors and experiences, increase our ability to be present and take effective action, and most importantly, facilitate psychological flexibility. With diffusion techniques, you do not battle difficult thoughts. Instead, you choose how much attention you pay to them. It also helps to ask yourself, is holding on to this thought or belief helpful? Is doing so causing me suffering or keeping me from being effective? Am I being pushed around by my thoughts? These questions aid in better understanding the workability concept. The workability concept is assessing if what we're doing is working to live a meaningful life. It's also choosing to take action based on what works instead of what is true. Okay, now that you have a better understanding of the importance of our relationship with our thoughts, let's get into an experiential example to better understand these concepts and the skill. So I'm going to be walking you through the hands as thoughts metaphor, and this is by the same author I mentioned, Russ Harris, and the same book, ACT Made Simple. So we try to adapt it a little bit for here. So feel free to follow along if you like. First, I want you to put your hands together, palms facing upwards as if they were pages of an open book. And I want you to start to imagine that your hands are your thoughts. And now slowly raise your hands up towards your face until you are covering your eyes and you can only see through the gaps of your fingers. And kind of take a look around and notice how this impacts your view and your connection with your environment. How does it feel? Notice it is quite difficult to see much other than your hands, and in this case, your thoughts. So what would it be like to go around your day this way? Would you be limited or miss out on things? Would it be challenging to respond to others or the world around you? Chances are that you're answering yes to all of these questions. Of course it is. This is a good representation of fusion. We become so entangled with our thoughts that we get disconnected from our environment and the here and now experience. Similarly, our thoughts also have a big impact on our behavior and our capacity to be effective. Now, slowly, begin lowering your hands and start noticing the difference. How does it feel? Can you notice that as the distance between your hands, your thoughts, and your eyes increase, you're able to take in much more information and it's easier to connect with others and the environment? This is a good representation of diffusion. Notice that your hands, your thoughts are still there. They did not magically disappear, and that you can now look at them without becoming entangled with them. So basically, if the thoughts are useful or workable to you, you may use them. And if they are not, then you may notice them and let them sit there. This also aids in becoming flexible and taking effective action. Now, let's get into some diffusion techniques. And by the way, these may sound a little bit silly at first, but they can really work. So I encourage you to try them out and get a feel on what works for you. First is the just noticing technique. In just noticing, actually say to yourself, I notice I'm having the thought of. And you may use labels to describe your inner experience, like there's the I'm unlovable thought, or I see you mind catastrophizing. Then there's the thanking the mind technique. This is where you tell your mind, thanks for the feedback, or thank you for this interesting thought when having difficult thoughts. And it helps if you do so in a somewhat sarcastic manner so that you don't take your thoughts too seriously. And remember that our goal here is to change our relationship with our thoughts. Next is mindful watching. And this is where you look at your thoughts with curiosity and openness, and you kind of notice them and how they come and they go without attempting to change or control them in any way. Finally, repeating a thought. You can use a silly voice when saying the thoughts, like using the Bugs Bunny voice or talking as Yoda would, like you, I do not, or singing your thoughts, repeating it out loud over and over again until only sound remains. And basically, these are some of the diffusion techniques. If you put into practice, it might help you get some distance from your unproductive or harmful thoughts, beliefs, or emotions. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please don't hesitate to check out the other great information that we have at thepsychologygroup.com. And again, I'm Dr. Gabriela Salonis Rodriguez, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay.